I am a One Piece fan. I'm all caught up with the manga, but sometimes I forget some things. And August is slated to be the biggest month in One Piece history. The manga is hitting its stride. The anime is about to explode, and the One Piece live action series is coming out soon. So it's time to get ourselves fully refreshed. We're gonna watch all 82 backstories in One Piece by Ohara. They make fantastic One Piece videos. I'm very excited. Let's get into it.
Today, we're gonna look at every single backstory in One Piece. Starting with the oldest character that we know of, which is this elephant?
I love him.
This is actually a highly intelligent creature the size of 4 Mount Everest that was already alive during the Void Century, and that was a companion of the legendary character called Joy Boy. The elephant's name is Zunisha, and what we know for a fact is that it committed such a terrible crime that as a punishment, it has been ordered to walk the oceans for over 800 years, waiting for the—
Dude, he's such a goat though. He's like a ride or die. He walks the oceans. His legs are bigger than the oceans. The fact that he's even allowed to just walk around just says how big the oceans really are. This dude is 4 mountains tall and he's just walking about. And people don't like talk about him. He just appears. You don't have like the common citizen being like, yo, there's like a really big elephant over there. That's kind of crazy.
Return of Joy Boy. Not only that, but during this extremely long time, a race of human-like animals called the Minks ended up building an entire country on its back. And speaking of super old characters, we also can't wait to learn more about other mysterious people from the Void Century, like Joy Boy, who probably used to have Luffy's legendary devil fruit. Or Odin's wife Toki, who time traveled to the future. Or the secret king of—
Oh man, I'm so excited to figure out all this stuff. Like the whole One Piece universe just interests me so much. There's so many cool little lore tidbits. I think this stuff is never gonna end. We're gonna get to like 1500 chapters of the anime. The manga. The anime is gonna be going until like 2047 or something like that. It's gonna be going forever.
the world Emu, who seems to have been ruling from the shadows for all this time. In addition—
Dude, Emu is one of the most interesting characters. I feel like Emu is— this is just my little game theory. I've just watched it myself. I don't really watch too many One Piece videos on YouTube. This is just what I kind of put together myself. It seems like Emu might be the recipient of the Op Fruit's infinite lifespan operation. I could be wrong. I don't know. That's how it seems for me.
Gorosei may also well be from the same time period as well, so hopefully Oda has a giant backstory prepared for us to explain the Void Century and all of the people who lived and fought during these lost 100 years.
It is crazy how Skypiea, when you watch it, is like, oh, dude, this sucks. I don't like Skypiea. Then afterwards, it's like, oh man, Skypiea actually matters so much.
Speaking of giant-sized backstories, we're moving on to these 2 giants who are some of the oldest characters in One Piece. Dory and Broggy are a crazy 160 years old. Both of them grew up on the island of giants called Elbaf and later formed their own pirate crew of giant warriors. However, at some point they started a really petty fight over who had hunted the larger animal, and so when Luffy and the crew meet them, they've actually been dueling for exactly 100 years.
I respect their dedication to the fight. I will say, it did kind of annoy me in this arc that at the end of it, like I said, there's gonna be One Piece spoilers in this. At the end of the arc, one of them is slated to be, dead, and then he just like gets back up and he's fine. I kind of wish Oda was more dedicated to like killing characters off because it'd be more impactful if he did die there, but
They ended up creating a lot of trouble for the rest of their crew, because without their captains, the 2 giants Oimo and Kashi were later blackmailed by the world government into working for them, with the government pretending that they had captured their friends. And
yeah, bad captains, honestly.
Hairujin, he ended up as a gladiator fighting for the entertainment of others inside the massive arena on Dressrosa. But even bigger and older than these giants though was Ors. While he lived 500 years ago, this ancient giant was 159 years old at the time of his death. Allegedly, he was a terrible villain called the Continent Puller, and after ravaging lands across the world, he froze to death in the icy northern continent.
What a way to die.
Moria would dig him up and revive him as a zombie. However, Ors—
Dude, Moria is such an interesting character. Like, I think Moria's gonna come back in the future and have like a big part to play.
also had a descendant called Little Ors Jr. Now, Little Ors Jr. was an ally of Whitebeard and helped during the Marineford War to free Ace because Ace had once gifted him a straw hat from the land of Wano. However,
oh, dude, it's so sad what actually happened to him.
the first straw hat that we're actually going to talk about today is—
Oh, they just skipped it. So Oz, during the what's it called? The Paramount War, the Marine Ford. He is like one of the only fucking people that dies. It's so sad. I can't believe they're like, oh, that we only had 3 confirmed deaths. Like, no, you didn't have 3 confirmed deaths. There were pirates fighting Marines everywhere. You telling me they just knocked each other out and they woke up the next day? Nah, of course not. There was definitely more deaths than that. But Oz Jr. dying was so sad.
Is the oldest one. Bro, this talking, singing skeleton has one of the most tragic backstories in all of One Piece.
Which is saying something, because every goddamn character in this show has a tragic backstory. There is no one in this show that just has a nice upbringing and they're like, yeah, my life's kind of good actually, I guess. Apart from like the Celestial Dragons. If you're on the Straw Hat crew, one of the prerequisites to join in the Straw Hats, Luffy will sit there for a few hours and be like, okay, tell me why you're so sad and angry. Tell me the horrible things that happened to you. And if you say, oh, well, actually, I had some nice parents and I was pretty happy, then he gum pistols you off the boat.
His crew, the Rumba Pirates, were friends with a young whale named Laboon. Little Laboon loved to hear Brook's music, but when the crew entered the Grand Line, they had to leave Laboon behind, promising that they'd meet back again one day. However, getting stuck in the Florian Triangle, which is basically the One Piece version of the infamous Bermuda Triangle, his entire crew slowly died of starvation. However, thanks to his Yomi Yomi no Mi, Brook was revived after death and kept living on as a skeleton.
Dude, I think Brook had the worst fate. He just floats around as a skeleton. He sips tea, but he has no tongue, so he cannot taste. He just eternally lives. Also, he still can't swim.
Cursed to continue wandering the mists of the Florian Triangle until he joined the Straw Hat Pirates.
And when he's found by the Straw Hats, he's still pretty upbeat. He's still in like a pretty decent
However,
mood.
thankfully, even death couldn't get rid of that sweet, sweet afro. And up next is the former fleet admiral of the Marines, Sengoku. While he's now carefree and living his best life in retirement,
oh yeah, it was poison.
We know from this childhood drawing that Oda made that he was actually very disciplined. Because as a child, we can see him practicing his calligraphy here, preparing him for a very long career of filing paperwork for Garp. Because on the other hand, this childhood drawing of Monkey D. Garp gives a very different impression. Garp is Luffy's grandfather, and we can definitely see the resemblance to Luffy because Garp absolutely looks more like a pirate as a kid than a marine. This wild
Yeah, it's interesting that he joined the Marines. I think Garp is one of the most interesting cases in One Piece because it seems like the entire world government's corrupt, evil, bad, etc., etc., etc. Obviously, there are bad pirates too, but there are a lot more good pirates, it seems, than there are good Marines, and Garp's one of the good Marines. Now, Kobe's also one of the good Marines, and as we're recording this, the last chapter that went up was 1088. If you know what happens in that chapter, I'm a little bit concerned about what's going to happen. I feel like in the future, since there are so few good Marines, there will be like a Marine civil war where the Marines will turn against the good Marines. They'll stop fighting each other because the good Marines will realize all the terrible things that the world government's doing, and they realize, oh, this government isn't protecting civilians, this government isn't doing the correct thing. We need to kind of bring it down so we can bring about a better order. They'll join up with the pirates. They may not necessarily have the same ideals as the pirates, but they'll have a common enemy in the world government, right?
Child would grow up to be the hero of the Marines. He took down terrible criminals like Don Xinjiao, whose head he punched so hard it went from being pointy to round. Now, Don Xinjiao would never forgive him for ruining his perfectly spiky head and would try to carry out the grudge against Garp's grandson, Luffy. Not only that, but Garp also had a friendly rivalry with the Pirate King Goldie Roger. This pair of frenemies teamed up at God Valley to fight the Rocks Pirates. Now, we don't know anything about his past or where he came from. All we know is that Rox Diesebek has collected a crew of some of the most powerful pirates in the world. Legendary characters like Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido,
I can't believe at one point Big Mom was like sexy.
or Stussy. With this crew of absolute monsters, Rock's ultimate goal was to destroy the Celestial Dragons and become the king of the world.
Yo, kind of based though? Well, maybe not the king of the world, he'd probably be like a dictator, but still, the goal kind of based.
In the end, was defeated by Roger and Garp together. And after the incident at God Valley, Garp became known as the hero of the Marines and Roger would become Pirate King. So let's talk about him for a second here. Some things that we know from Roger's past are that he originally owned Luffy's straw hat before passing it on to Shanks, who then in turn passed it on to Luffy. But most importantly, along with
I wonder if Luffy's gonna pass it on to someone.
of his crew, he was the first person to ever reach the final island and find the One Piece. Whatever.
Ah, man, the panel where he gets there and he realizes what's there. Oh, such a good panel.
This treasure was, it must have been really funny because Roger burst out laughing when he found it.
That one.
And he
Oh,
decided
dude.
to name the hidden island Laugh Tale. For some reason, he had arrived to the treasure too early in his own words, and unfortunately, he also had contracted a—
Dude, that makes me so confused as to what the fuck it is, because it's a genuine real thing. Is it like a weapon? Is it a way to control the ancient weapons that are just like scattered around the One Piece world? You can like turn them all into your favor. Like, what is it? Like, the world government somehow hasn't been to the One Piece because they can't get the poneglyphs because they're all in, like, Emperor's territory. I feel like they should have tried harder. They had a long time to get there. They should have tried a bit harder. Maybe they didn't know it existed.
deadly disease. And so he did everything in his power so that the right person would be able to find the island once again. After that, Roger turned himself into the world government and announced the existence of the One Piece to the world, starting the Grand Pirate era as people scrambled to find his treasure. However, before he died, Roger did one more thing. He had fathered a son with a woman named Portgas de Rouge in secret, and before his execution, he had asked Garp to adopt this son. Even though Roger was a pirate and Garp was a marine, he trusted his longtime rival more than anyone to see to it that his son
Garp's
had
a
a chance
goat.
to live his life
Such a
despite being
goat.
related to the most wanted criminal. And Garp actually agreed to adopt that son, who would go by the name of Ace and was raised as Luffy's brother. But
I do think the Straw Hat has plot armor built into it. It has this mystical, in-universe plot armor that just makes you immune to dying. Oh, well, actually.
we'll get to that in just a bit. First, we have to go back a little bit though, because we just skipped over some massive names right here. Let's talk about the remaining members of the Rocks pirate crew. 3 of whom would even go on to become Emperors of the Sea. I mean, just look at this picture of Whitebeard as a kid. Can you believe that this
He's a
guy
tubby
went on
boy.
to become the world's strongest man? Not to mention that he used to have a serious
Damn!
nice
He's the Crimson Chin!
hair. It does seem like he never did have an actual beard though. Now, Whitebeard grew up on this island that was too poor to pay the insanely high taxes to the world government and therefore had to defend itself from pirates and bandits on its own. This turned
Fucking
Whitebeard
taxes,
into one
brother.
of the most powerful fighters in all of One Piece.
What the hell is Whitebeard's mustache? Because it's a physical solid object. It's not made of hair. It's like solid. Unless he just puts way too much pomade in it and it makes it solid because it cracks and breaks in Marineford. He just breaks a piece of it off. Like, that's not how mustaches
And his
work.
crewmate Charlotte Lin was the sweet, sweet little girl here who didn't know her own strength.
Dude, this backstory blew my mind. I didn't even realize what happened at first until like a little bit after, and I was like, what?
Parents had abandoned her on Elbaf, where her hunger pains led to her absolutely bodying some giants. Little Hydrogen, for example, who we mentioned earlier, was even there as a kid as well. Fortunately though, Mother Caramel was here to raise Lin inside her orphanage. Unfortunately though, Mother Caramel was also a scam artist who sold orphans to the world government. Double unfortunate, at the world's worst birthday party, Big Mom ate
Oh, no.
all of her friends and Mother Caramel alive along with her devil fruit.
Dude, I read this and I was like, oh, I wonder where everyone went. That's kind of weird that everyone just like left. They must have played like hide and seek or something. And I left it for a couple of minutes and I came back and I looked at it again and I was like, oh no, no, she ate them all.
Gaining her soul powers. After that, Big Mom built her food-related empire, attracting numerous husbands along the way.
That's also one of the craziest things in One Piece to me. She must be perpetually pregnant. Also, who's fucking Big Mom? I guess she was like super sexy at one point. She has a child that is one of those little creatures from Dressrosa, the little wee ones, which implies that she had to have had sex with one of the wee little creatures. How does that work? Did he just get like shoved in whole?
Kaido was another Rocks pirate with a seriously messed up childhood. Ever since he was a kid, he was used as a human weapon due to his immense strength. And then after a period as a government test subject, he found his way to the Rocks pirates, where Big Mom gave him his dragon devil fruit. And while he was a government test subject, he also broke out a fellow prisoner, Arbor, who he then renamed into King. And King is the last known member of the Lunarian race, a mysterious race with black wings, dark skin, light hair, and fire-related powers.
That's so stupid that he's the last one. That sucks. That's such a cool race. They just walk around with fire powers and wings? That's so cool.
In fact, King is the one that teaches Kaido about the myths surrounding Joy Boy, which then leads Kaido to want to set up his base of operation inside Wano. And since the two were being experimented on in Punk Hazard, this is likely where Kaido first encountered Queen as well, since Queen previously worked with the other scientists of MATS. This is a research group created by Dr. Vegapunk. Another notable Kaido crewmate is Who's Who. This member of the Flying Six used to be a CP9 agent until Shanks stole the Gomu Gomu no Mi that he was responsible for guarding. After this,
Dude, this conversation just unraveled everything. This random person that can turn into like a big cat just unraveled everything.
Who was imprisoned by the government but was eventually freed and became a subordinate of Kaido, hiding his true identity. And later on, Kaido would encounter one of his fiercest enemies with Kozuki Oden in Wano and have the fight of his life. We already mentioned Oden a little bit earlier since he sailed together with Roger to Love Tale, but we have got to take a minute to talk about this Giga Chat's true past. After growing up as a troublemaker, Oden was named the daimyo of the lawless land of Kuri by his father, the shogun of the Wano country. This is where he
Oden could have beaten Kaido. I believe
gathered his 9 retainers, the 9 red scabbards: Kinemon, Denjiro, Kawamatsu, Ashura Doji, Nekomamushi, Inuarashi, Kiku, Raizo, and Kanjuro. Alongside with them though fought others as well, like the bewitching ninja Shinobu. However, after a chance meeting with Whitebeard, Oden went to sea to explore the world outside of Wano. And while they were sailing, he met his wife Toki, a time traveler.
Wait, hold on. Okay, just look at the size difference here. Sizes in One Piece is so funny. Toki is probably like a normal human being. Oden's like 15 feet tall, absolutely muscled out the gills. You're telling me that he did not break her in half immediately? That's insane.
From the Void Century, and they had their 2 children, Momonosuke and Hiyori. Later, after swapping crews from Whitebeard to Roger, he then went to Love Tale and then finally returned to Wano with the goal of opening its borders.
Dude, he speedran being a pirate.
Unfortunately, in the time that he'd been gone, Orochi had pulled a power play with the backing of Kaido to gain control over Wano.
There are so many horrible things I want to do to Orochi that you can't say, that you just get your channel shut down immediately. Fuck you, Orochi.
He was part of the Kurozumi clan who sought to take revenge on the Kozuki clan for past conflicts. He even went as far as installing Kanjuro, another secret Kurozumi, among Oden's retainers.
Like, I get it. He was hunted down for being part of a family when he didn't do anything wrong. Like, the sins of the father should not impact the child. I understand that. He had a really bad upbringing. But there are people with bad upbringings. There are people that have the worst situation in the world, and they don't turn into genocidal maniacs that are just like massive assholes to everyone.
Finally, though, after a climactic battle, Kaido finally executed Oden while his retainers fled to the future using Toki's powers.
Is Oden the only person that has died via gunshot? I feel like guns do nothing in One Piece.
Ended up sealing Orochi's position as the Shogun of Wano, and it led to terrible times on Wano for the common people, like for example Tama. However, during Luffy's brother Ace's time on Wano, he met Tama and gave her hope for the future. And while he was there, Ace also met Yamato, Kaido's son, who was inspired to adopt the name of Oden after seeing his bravery during his execution.
God, I love Yamato.
Extremely supportive of Yamato's newfound identity, Kaido was otherwise a terrible father figure, locking her in explosive handcuffs and confining her
explosive handcuffs! It's not really great parenting, is it?
Onigashima for her entire life. So now we can move from Wano to Egghead Island.
Oh, that's it for Yamato? I love Yamato. Yamato might be one of my favorite One Piece characters. I was so sad when Yamato didn't join the Straw Hats.
Where we finally met the eccentric scientist Dr. Vegapunk. This genius was inspired to uncover and decipher the secret knowledge lost to the world after his friend and colleague Professor Clover was killed at Ohara. And as the leader and founder of the science group MATS, he also used to work with other crazy scientists such as Vince Smoke Judge, Caesar Clown, and Queen. Of course, while Vegapunk secretly works with the Revolutionary Army, he keeps up appearances by making technology for the world governments.
He's making a lot. Like, by keeping up appearances? This is a lot of appearances. Damn. He's doing a lot for them. He's going above and beyond, I'd say.
So let's talk about the Marine Admirals. Now, we don't know much yet about the
Did we talk about Caesar? Is he not going to go back to Caesar? I only have like half an hour left, but I have so much to say about Caesar.
Of the original 3 admirals, but Oda has drawn all 3 of them as children. Borsalino appears to have always just been as carefree as he is now. Sakazuki looks like he had a very rough childhood. I'm willing to bet his absolute hatred of pirates was inspired from a very young age.
Okay, Akainu is an interesting villain. I think he's actually a really good villain. I feel like he has this like righteous justice, but it's pointed in the wrong direction. Like, yes, there are a lot of really bad pirates that come in and pillage and destroy and murder and kill. So in a way, him joining the government, who he probably believes is like the correct choice, is an interesting perspective, even though he does do a lot of very bad things. Like, he does like genocide on pirates and genocide on people that really haven't done that many bad things, but he thinks it's in the pursuit of a good cause. He's an interesting character.
And Kuzan appears to have been extremely disgruntled and possibly a victim of
he's pissing me off right now.
Alcoholism. Seriously.
That's crazy.
Why is baby Aokiji carrying that bottle around? As for our other admirals, we don't actually quite know much about them yet. We do know that Fujitora blinded himself after seeing terrible atrocities in the world, and we're super curious about what those atrocities were.
Bro, I'm seeing such bad things that you blind yourself? What could you possibly see?
And Aramaki, on the other hand, is still a complete mystery. We know nothing about him. And another even more mysterious character, indeed one of the most mysterious in the whole series, is Luffy's father, Dragon, the most wanted man in the world and leader of the revolutionary.
It is crazy that we've known about Dragon for so long and basically know nothing about him. Fujitori saw Twitter. Big Mom Rule 34. Actually, depending on the version of Big Mom, that could be pretty sick.
In Dr. Vegapunk's flashback, we learned that the destruction of Ohara is what inspired Dragon to join together with Emporio Ivankov and Bartholomew Kuma to form the Revolutionary Army. However, it's still to be seen what traumatic event caused Dragon to become an absentee father, because it's
I don't know. I mean, it could just be like he doesn't want kids. What traumatic event was like, fuck, I don't want to be a dad anymore.
All too common in the One Piece world that just throwing kids in the jungle is the equivalent of a date.
It's pretty messed up.
Of course, having the parent present isn't always a good thing though. Like for Big Mom's many traumatized children. At age 50, Perospero is the eldest son of Big Mom, followed by the triplets Katakuri, Oven, and Daifuku. Now we don't have full backstories on all of the Charlotte family because the most detail we get is from Katakuri, Brûlé, and Pudding. For example, we know that Katakuri's other siblings would make fun of his huge donut-eating mouth, calling him a pelican eel. While they went with this obscure deep-sea creature instead of just calling him a pelican is a little bit of a mystery though. After Katakuri—
Dude, they are the worst insulters in the world. People should insult them. Jail for bad insults. You know what? They're cringe. Bad insulter.
In response, his brothers took their revenge out on Brûlé, scarring her face. Afterwards, Katakuri began covering up his mouth. In his mind, he was doing it to protect his siblings, as well as cultivating a serious image.
Damn, Katakuri's sick though. He's so cool.
Pudding, on the other hand, spent her entire childhood being ridiculed for her third eye, even being called hideous by her own mother. So really, the Charlottes aren't what you would exactly call a loving and supporting family. Let's now move on to the Shichibukai.
Is there anyone in One Piece that has a loving and supporting family? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
First, Gecko Moria. Moria was once an idealistic young pirate with his sights set on rising to the top of the One Piece world.
He let himself go.
Challenging the Emperor Kaido, his entire crew was mercilessly killed. And him losing his entire crew is what would inspire him to use a zombie army in the future, because he can't lose his crew and relive the pain if they're already dead.
Motherfuckers, men will make a zombie army to avoid going to therapy for their trauma.
To replace his old crew, he gathered followers like Hawkback, a skilled surgeon with a twisted reputation. Because Hawkback helped Moria stitch his zombie army together, including Sindri, who was a famous stage actress in life that was resurrected.
This is demented. Oh, dude, this is so deranged. Okay, I will admit, Thriller Bark is probably one of my least favorite parts of One Piece. But man, they got the horror elements really well.
Mad scientist. Absalom, another crew member, had his face partially spliced with a lion to better resemble the predator that he is. As we can see from this—
Wait, like sexual predator? Is that what you mean? Because he spies on people because he's invisible? He's an actual Predator.
Drawing though, Perona has pretty much been a goth girl since day one. It's not just a phase with her. Bartholomew Kuma, another warlord we encountered on Thriller Bark, was known as a tyrant and served as the ruler of the Sorbet Kingdom. He's also Jewelry Bonnie's father, and he was also a prominent founding member of the Revolutionary Army, but was converted by Dr. Vegapunk into a cyborg in service of the world government. Kuma was also used as the basis for the Pacifista robots as well, and we already got
Dude, Kuma's whole thing is so sad. I wonder why he went to become a robot in service of the government. I'm pretty sure, from what I remember, he did something pretty bad. But is it that bad? Was it to save the kingdom? Was it to save Bonnie?
That Kuma might have the single most traumatic past in the entire story of One Piece. Now, Crocodile was the very first warlord that Luffy ever defeated. We can't tell a whole lot about Crocodile's past, but we do know that he has a grudge against Whitebeard.
No, Crocodile is Luffy's mom.
In addition, we also know that he has a deep, dark secret that only Emporio Ivankov knows. And while working with Nico Robin, his organization Baroque Works decided to try and steal the throne of Alabasta while Crocodile secretly sought the ancient weapon Pluton. And it should be noted that Crocodile as a child is very gender ambiguous.
Oh, well, never mind. Well, actually, very gender ambiguous. Well, we're just throwing out some theories there, you know. Could be, who knows?
With that information, what you want. Crocodile plotted against Nefertari Cobra, the beloved ruler of the desert island Alabasta. His daughter, Princess Vivi, is even an honorary Straw Hat member after their travels together. And as one of the original 40 kingdoms that founded the world government, the Nefertaris regularly attend the revelry. As a child there, Vivi encountered Walpole, the monarch of the Drunk Kingdom, who showed his true colors by slapping her while she was still a child.
I want him to die so bad. I want Walpole to suffer the most horrifying and suffering demise. I can't believe he just gets bazookaed off his entire island and just lands on a different island and is like, oh, guess I'm the king of this island now. I'm the king again. No punishment. He's fine. He just gets another kingdom and a hot wife, and he just has this whole capitalist empire now, and he's just the king again.
And while in Alabasta, Vivi also grew up as a close friend of Koza, who would eventually lead the rebel army fueled by Crocodile's lies and deceit. As children, Vivi joined Koza's Suna Suna club, and later these brave kids once actually saved Vivi's life from kidnappers. Jinbei, the Knight of the Sea and current Straw Hat Pirate, got his start on the Sun Pirates under a captain called Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger was once enslaved by the Celestial Dragons. After his escape, he single-handedly scaled the Red Line back to Marijua and released the rest of the slaves there in a legendary one-man assault against the world government capital.
That's my goat.
The Sun Pirates branded themselves with the symbol of the sun to cover up the Celestial Dragons brand that they were marked with as slaves. In fact, all members of the crew received a sun brand so that people couldn't differentiate who was a former slave and who was not. The sun symbol itself, of course, being related to the sun god Nika, who we now know was worshipped by slaves as a god of liberation. And the Sun Pirates also escorted a former slave who would then grow up to be the revolutionary Koala back home as well. However, they were attacked by a squad of Marines and Fisher Tiger was shot. Eventually,
so this is the second guy in the entire series that has died to a gunshot wound. You think that they'd just be strong enough to not be shot? Like, if Luffy gets shot, nothing happened to him.
Fisher Tiger died, needing a blood transfusion. However, due to his hatred of humans, he couldn't let himself receive blood from a human.
That's so sad.
And passed away.
He was too racist to live. Literally too racist to live, even though he is kind of the GOAT. And the racism was brought on by trauma. But regardless, still racist.
Afterwards, Jinbei and Arlong fought for leadership of the Sun Pirates. In the end, Jinbei gained control of the crew, eventually becoming a warlord in order to better the terms between the government and Fishman Islands. Arlong, meanwhile, formed his own Arlong pirate crew and moved to the East Blue, where he constructed Arlong Park. Now, not a lot is known about Dracula Mihawk's past either. We know that he was a longtime rival.
Mihawk's design is so cool. I thought for the longest time he was called Milhawk as well.
Friend of Shanks, at least until Shanks lost his arm.
Yeah, Shanks losing his arm's kind of weird because he should just be able to, like, not lose his arm. Even if the sea dragon chomped on his arm, you'd imagine that some One Piece characters are just strong enough where you'd be like, ah, fuck, I'll get off. Get off my arm, you swipe him off like a fly, like a flea. But I actually think the reason that Shanks lost his arm was because he lost his arm before the entire plan for One Piece was put into play, so that he didn't know, or Oda didn't know, that Shanks was going to be the GOAT that he is now, and he's just like a normal guy, and he lost his arm because he's just supposed to be like a normal guy who loses his arm when he gets attacked by a shark, because of course, why wouldn't you?
Also know that before becoming a warlord, he was known as the Marine green hunter, which is pretty badass. Another former warlord, Don Quixote do Flamingo, is a celestial dragon. However, after his father left their position as a celestial dragon and they left the Holy Land, they moved to the sea only to be met with hatred and persecution by the people there. And so
yeah, no wonder. Seriously, it's like the slave drivers going down to the slave town and being like, I want to live like you, everyone. And they were like, no, we hate you. Why would we like you? You guys are awful. You're the worst. He's like, well, I don't understand why they don't like me. It's very confusing why they are mad at the slave drivers.
So eventually, Doflamingo killed his own father, but it was too late to regain his position in Merijoa. And so after being taken in by Treble, the young Doflamingo then began on his path to becoming an infamous and cruel pirate. And eventually, he claimed the kingdom of Dressrosa, the Don Quixote's family's original ancestral home, as his own once again. Before Doflamingo's invasion, Dressrosa was a peaceful kingdom led by the king Riku. Quiros, a legendary gladiator who became captain of the royal guard, even married King Riku's daughter, and the two had their own daughter together named Princess Rebecca.
Dude, the Dressrosa thing might be the most evil thing I've seen in any series. Turning random citizens into toys so that they're completely forgotten about immediately, but the toys still have self-awareness, can do nothing about their situation except hang around and watch as their former friends and family members get on with their lives, completely forgetting that they ever existed, is fucking evil.
Family lived happily until Doflamingo used his string powers to manipulate Riku, causing him to cut down his own citizens.
This as well, that's insane!
Stand against the Don Quixote pirates, but one of Doflamingo's subordinates named Sugar used her devil fruit power to turn Quiros into a toy soldier. And
Sugar's fruit is like one of the strongest in the series. I imagine that some people that have strong enough hockey wouldn't get turned into toy soldiers. Like, if she tried to turn Luffy into a toy soldier, it would just not work. If it does work, then that's just insanely overpowered. That just erases everyone. That should be the devil fruit that the world government should have. Like, Doflamingo's crew has it? Are you kidding me? They should have been rolled by the government 7,000 years ago because that fruit is ridiculously powerful. Probably one of the most powerful in the series.
And a side effect of this power was that everyone forgot that Quiros had ever existed. However, the toy soldier version of Quiros still helped raise Rebecca, teaching her how to defend herself, as Riku and Rebecca were both forced to compete in Dressrosa's Colosseum for their own survival and the Don Quixote family's entertainment. And another set of drawings from the SBS sections of the manga treat us to some of the Don Quixote family members as children's as well. We can see that Treble has always been disgusting, and also see a young Diamante,
poor guy,
Pika, Laoji, Macvice, Giola.
Dude, oh yeah, that's a good point, the great guy. If instead of killing Goldie Roger, if the world government had Sugar's fruit, they just erase his memory instead. No one knows about One Piece. No one knows about anything. The whole series just doesn't happen.
Gladius and Monet. However, of course, the Don Quixote family member with the most fleshed out backstory is none other than Senor Pink. Senor Pink's backstory came seemingly out of nowhere, but managed to tug on fans' heartstrings and is considered among the best in the series.
It really is. When I saw Senor Pink at the start, I was like, oh, dude, dressing as a baby guy, I hate this theme. I don't like it. It's gross. It weirds me out. This backstory is crazy.
Long ago, Senor Pink fell in love with a woman named Russian. Together, they even had a child named Gimlet, but all along, Russian didn't know that her husband was part of a crime family and a pirate. Unfortunately, Gimlet passed away as an infant from illness, and afterwards, Russian learned the truth behind Senor Pink. She ran away, but was caught in a landslide, causing her to fall into a vegetative state. Senor Pink would visit her every single day in the hospital, and one day would put on their baby's hat while expressing grief over their son. And his wife actually reacted by smiling despite being in a coma, which led to Senor Pink dressing more and more like a baby to get a reaction from his beloved wife. And so Senor Pink still dresses as a baby to this day. It's
He's so
just
cool.
a hard-boiled thing to do. But
dude, he's just a hard-boiled man, you know?
while Flamingo was a celestial dragon, our next Chichibukai was a victim of the celestial dragons. Boa Hancock, the Empress of Amazon Lily, was enslaved by the celestial dragons as a child along with her two sisters. However, she was then later set free during Fisher Tiger's attack on Merijoa. Hancock has also known Sylvus Rayleigh for a long time, given that Rayleigh's spouse Shaki was the former Empress of Amazon Lily as well. And later on, she became a warlord in order to protect Amazon Lily from the world government.
Hancock's awesome,
Blackbeard, or
honestly.
Marshall D. Teach also had a terrible childhood, as we can tell from this childhood drawing from Oda. Here we
Of course he had a terrible childhood. This guy was just born to be a dickhead. He's like the antithesis of Luffy. Even look at this picture. His first ever picture is him looking at the moon. Who is the opposite of this guy? Luffy. What is Luffy? Exactly. Also, Blackbeard has the dark void suck up fruit versus sun fruit. Boom, as well. Yeah, I'm a theory guy now. Yeah, I do some theory sometimes.
see him crying under a crescent moon. As a young boy, he was taken in by Whitebeard, and people quickly noticed his peculiar traits, such as the fact that he never sleeps. Now, we still have to learn a lot about his past, but since his ship's name was the Saber of Zebek, it's clear that he was somehow inspired by or related to Roxy Zebek. And his
maybe his son
are all also notorious in their own rights. We don't know much about the past of Jesus Burgess, Doc Q, or Van Auger, but Lafitte was a former police officer. Talk about a crooked cop. And Blackbeard's other crewmates were all recruited from Impel Down, which
dude, I swear, this guy, the cigar guy here, he's just based off of like Nazi officers.
means that characters like Katarina Devon, Vasco Schott, San Juan Wolf, and Avalo Pizarro all have lengthy criminal records. Shiryu, on the other hand, wasn't just a prisoner of Impel Down, he was a former head jailer who was so cruel to the inmates that they had to
He's basically an SS officer.
Imprison him as well. As a child, when the Whitebeard and Roger pirates met, Blackbeard also met a young Shanks. Now, Shanks was found by Roger in a treasure chest at God Valley and was then adopted by the crew. As a result, Shanks became a cabin boy along with Buggy, both of whom would grow up to become Yonko. And while aboard Roger's ship,
that's such a funny phrase. I can't believe Buggy was on Goldie Roger's crew as well. Buggy being like the first villain of the series and being so important throughout the whole series is a really funny running joke, but also it shows that you can fail yourself upwards. It shows that in real life, people literally fail upwards and they fail into more success. And Buggy is the best showcasing of that possible.
Buggy accidentally consumed the Chop Chop fruit, gaining his devil fruit powers. Before Roger's execution, Shanks inherited his Captain Straw Hat, and one day he would give the Straw Hat to Luffy. And sometime after Roger's death, Shanks would steal the Gomu Gomu no Mi from the Marines, which Luffy would then later eat. And now we move back to ancient history for the so far oldest flashback chronologically in the series so far, where we learn about Kalgara and Mont Blanc Noland. Mont Blanc Noland, also known as Noland the Liar, was
wasn't Noland like a dickhead or a liar or something like that? I forget exactly what happened here.
Explorer. He befriended the dwarfs of Greenbit, but also traveled to Jaya, where he met the Shandians and saw the City of Gold. While he was there, he befriended the Shandian warrior Kalgara. He promised to return one day, but by the time that he had returned, Shandora had already been sent up to Skypiea by the knock-up stream, and Noland—
Oh, it was propaganda, yeah. Well, I was confused as to, because I thought there was a story beat where they said he was a liar, he's not a liar, he told the truth, but then he also did something like really dickish afterwards.
Was remembered by history as a—
I might be wrong on that.
In the present-day story, Skypiea would be conquered by Enel. Strangely, Enel—
I fell for propaganda, sorry.
Not from Skypiea, but another sky island called Burka. After he gained his lightning powers, he destroyed Burka without a second thought, and eventually—
Enel is what happens when you encounter like a level 50 boss at the start of your adventure and you're level 10, and then you have like the perfect hard counter to his type. It's like finding in Pokemon a level 100 electric type, but you only have level 10 ground types, and you're like, oh man, at least I have Earthquake right now, and they can't do anything to me because they only have electric type moves.
Wound up on Skypiea and declared himself a god there. Mad Monk Urush, another Sky Islander, is one of the supernovas. We don't know much about his backstory yet,
Does he have
but
wings?
we do have this drawing of him where he was sporting traditional
Is he a Lunarian?
hairstyle. We can only hope that when he returns to the series, he will bring this look back at some point, because looking good. Capone Beige was known as a famous mafioso back in the West Blue before entering the Grand Line, and according to this picture, he loved playing with blocks as a kid, building the castle.
He also loved playing with guns as a kid too, apparently.
He would eventually become with his devil fruit. X-Straight, on the other hand, had quite different ambitions. He didn't want to become a pirate. Instead, he dreamed of becoming a marine, a dream that would come true while he grew up to be a member of SWORD, the secret marine organization. Basil Hawkins got—
He is the character that does not fit into One Piece. Like, whenever I look at him, I'm like, dude, you belong in like a Metal Gear Solid. You look like a Hitman character, or a Yakuza. He looks like a Yakuza character. That's what he looks like.
So Admiral got his practice as a tarot card reader very early on as well, it seems. And Scratchman Apu got in plenty of piano lessons before his teeth.
His arms confuse me.
Keyboards. Taking a detour from the supernovas though, we have our very own cyborg Frankie. He was born with the name Cuddy Flam, which explains why he'd want to undergo change to the much cooler sounding Frankie. He was abandoned by his pirate parents and grew up on the island of shipwrights, Water 7. As a young inventor, Frankie constructed numerous battleships he named Battle Frankies. He and the future mayor Iceberg were raised by the legendary shipwright Tom, who constructed Gold D. Rogers' ship, the Oro Jackson. In fact, during Roger and Odin's voyage, they visited Tom, and Odin even invited a young Frankie to join their crew. However, Frankie refused.
Man, imagine if he took it.
Hated pirates on account of having been abandoned by pirates. Another parental figure to Frankie.
It's fair enough, really.
Kokoro, a secret mermaid and secretary to Tom. Later in his life, Tom was then put on trial for constructing the Oro Jackson. To avoid execution, he agreed to build the sea train for the government. However, after construction was completed, in a plot to acquire the blueprints to the ancient weapon Pluton, ZP9 Spandam used Frankie's battleships to stage an attack on Water 7. In the end, Tom received the blame for the attack and was sentenced to death.
I can't believe the government would lie to us. That's crazy. Tom was such a goat too.
In an effort to stop CP9, Frankie hit Spandam's face with a rifle, permanently scarring him. And he also stood in the way of the sea train in an effort to stop it from taking Tom to Ennis Lobby.
Yeah, which is a crazy thing to do when you know the government doesn't care about you, won't kill you. Like, oh, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna stop the train with your hands?
Horribly wounded Frankie. However, in a stroke of real genius, Frankie was able to rebuild himself into the cyborg that we know and love today.
I'm gonna say it. Two things. Number one, Frankie freaks me out. The fact that he replaces all of his body parts with Sagawag parts. It reminds me of the Warhammer 40k Mechanicum, where they replace all of their parts with mechanical parts to improve themselves. Freaks me out. I hate that. I'm squeamish. I don't like it. Also, I just don't like his new design. I really prefer old Frankie. Now he just looks weird and wrong. It just looks strange.
Speaking of Spandam though, he started in the family espionage business early, following in the footsteps of his father Spandine. He and the rest of the ZP9 members from the Ennis Lobby arc are also pictured here as kids. Confusingly, Spandam's pictured here with a young elephant, which is strange because Funk Freed was a sword that ate an elephant fruit. We can only guess that he received his unique sword at a very young age then, I guess.
It still blows my mind that swords can eat fruits. Do you just like slice the fruit with the sword and then it becomes a self-aware elephant? That's so weird.
The various ZP9 members, Jabra, Kumadori, Bruno, Fukuro, Khalifa, Kaku, and Lucci, were all trained as government spies and assassins from childhood. The one that we know the most about, of course, is Rob Lucci himself. Apparently, he has known his pigeon Hatori since he was a very young boy, which begs the question, how long do pigeons actually live in the One Piece world? Lucci
no, they live as long as humans.
An operation he conducted at age 13, where he mercilessly killed 500 soldiers that were taken hostage, along with the pirates who were holding them.
Yeah, a little genocide Jack situation. He's a dickhead. I can't believe they're teaming up on Egghead. I mean, I guess they kind of have to, but he's a right asshole. He has a cool design though. Sick design.
His savage brand of dark justice to the world government and made him one of their—
How is that justice? Assets. Explain how slaughtering prisoners is justice.
Lucci is a fan favorite villain and Hody Jones is not.
I hate him. God, he's such a shit. He's just like, I'm racist. I do not like this character. His thing is he just takes a bunch of drugs and is racist. He's just like a chav. Oh my God, he's a chav.
In case you forgot, Hody Jones was the captain of the new Fishman Pirates who served as the main antagonist of the Fishman Island arc. He once served as a soldier in King Neptune's army during Queen and Otohime's reign. Queen Otohime was a ruler who promoted peace between the races despite the persecution Fishmen had to face at the hands of humans. Her daughter, Shirahoshi, was revealed to be Poseidon.
I think it's because they spent too much time on Fishman Islands. Like, if it was a quick jaunt in and out, people probably wouldn't dislike him as much, but they spent a long time on Fishman Islands.
Member of the Fishman royal family with the power to command the Sea Kings. Thunder Decken, one of Hody Jones's allies, touched him.
Oh no, I forgot about this guy as well. He sucks as well. He's just a nonce. He's like, I am the best nonce. I will be a nonce until I die. I am going to be the greatest stalker of all time. I am completely and utterly deranged.
Shirahoshi as a child using his Mark fruit power, which allowed him to throw objects and weapons at her from anywhere, which forced the young princess to live most of her life in isolation within Ryugugo Kingdom's castle.
He sucks.
Which forced her to live most of her life in isolation within Ryugu Kingdom's castle, protected from random flying axes, which is now,
that is a crazy way to see. You have to stay inside, or there might be an axe that just materializes out of nowhere and decapitates you. We don't know when it's gonna happen. It might happen.
With his hatred of humans, Hody Jones assassinated Queen Orohime to create conflict between the races. Inspired by his idol Arlong,
Race war!
Fishman pirates with the goal of taking over Fishman Island and eventually waging war against humans on the surface. Using the power of the energy steroids from the Tamatobako box treasure, he and his crewmates gained incredible powers that allowed them to almost take over Fishman Island itself. They just didn't count.
Yeah, I don't know what his plan was, because the more steroids he took, the more of an effect it had on his body. He took so many at one point where he was just gonna die after the fight anyway. He was gonna have a heart attack. It's like snorting cocaine 7 billion times. It may improve your performance slightly, but you're just gonna have a heart attack and die. So what's your goal at this point? Just to have more race wars? What a terrible ideology to have.
Those meddling Straw Hats showing up in the end. And our next Straw Hat crew member is Nico Robin, who like the rest of her crewmates has an extremely tragic backstory.
She has my favorite part in the entire show. My favorite scene in the whole show. The voice actress for Robin absolutely killed this.
I want to live! Take me with you! Take me away from here!
Dude, the emotion in that, the voice crack, she put 110% in that. The dub, gross. Dude, I mean, you've got to be a Listen, if you think that was a bad dub, then you don't have ears. You straight up don't. I don't care. Listen, you listen to whatever you want. That was fucking awesome. That was so good.
Robin grew up on Ohara, the island of scholars. Professor Clover and the other researchers had uncovered the mysteries of the Void Century, the Ancient Kingdom, and the language written on the poneglyphs, unbreakable blocks spread around the world that carry forgotten historical knowledge. One day, a giant marine named Jaguar D. Saul washed ashore and befriended Robin. He warned her that the Marines were coming to attack Ohara to destroy and cover up the knowledge that the scholars had uncovered so far. Oh yeah, and one important detail is that Robin also grew up without parents, very lonely on that island. However, after Saul's warning, Robin's mother, Nico Olvia, also returned to Ohara, but
the one good parent in this series, the one time you get a good parent in this series. The Japanese voice actor did it far better. I don't think so.
Professor Clover and all the other residents of the island were killed by the Marines. Admiral Aokiji actually allowed Robin to escape, making her the sole survivor of the island. At least that's what we thought. And in order to make a living, I
forgot Aokiji was there.
Various pirate crews, eventually becoming Sir Crocodile's second in command.
It is crazy that Robin is the key to this entire series. Like, there's just one person that knows how to read this stuff. I feel like maybe she should teach someone else just in case. In the 2-year time gap, she was just off like gallivanting around with the Revolutionary Army when she's like the only person that can decipher the past of the One Piece. That's a little important. That's kind of important. What if she like slipped and fell down some stairs and broke her neck? Or she choked on a piece of apple when no one was looking? It's just over at that point.
She made it her goal to seek out all the poneglyphs and learn the true history of the world, completing and carrying on the will and work of her friends. Pedro, a jaguar mink who accompanied Luffy to Whole Cake Island, was once the captain of the Nox Pirates. This group of minks made it their goal to search for those same poneglyphs. However, on a mission to Big Mom's territory many years ago, he and his comrade Zeppo, who is Beppo's brother, were captured. Zeppo was killed, but Big Mom spared Pedro after he tore out his own eyes in exchange for her sparing a few years of his life. He did so.
Dude, Pedro's such a go. And yeah, Monosuke's dad or granddad is still alive. That's true. There is one other person that can read it. Pedro is such a go. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think Pedro was dead. After the whole Pell situation, where Pell's like, I have a nuke in my arms. Don't worry, I'll save everyone by sacrificing myself and flying in the air to tank the nuke. And he's just like, fine. He's just okay now. I was like, okay, no one's gonna die in this series.
Because he wanted to be alive to see the dawn of the world. Used his kit, a supernova, and achieved.
And then Pedro, I can't believe, spoiler alert for this entire series, by the way. He gets exploded. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh, he got exploded. He's fine. Turns out he actually did die. I was like, no, you can't kill Pedro like that. And I was like, you know what? That's brave to actually kill someone, Oda. Please kill more people, actually. It would be more effective. I know that they didn't kill Pell because of 9/11. I still think they should have done it. I don't know if the manga would have had much of effect on American sensibilities. I think they still should have killed Pell.
Rival to Luffy, was born on a lawless island in the South Blue. Interestingly, his backstory was given to us almost entirely through an SBS section of the manga volume, so not in the story directly. On his island, there were 4 gang leaders, 2 of whom were Kid and Killer. Despite being rival gang leaders, the 2 were great friends and also had a crush on the very same girl, Victoria. However, when a criminal organization killed Victoria, Kid and Killer united the gangs of the island to take revenge. Their alliance would eventually become the Kid Pirates, ending with them setting sail and entering the
Wait, is he crucifying? Oh my god, he's crucifying them.
During the time skip, Kid, as well as his allies Hawkins and Apu, even challenged Red Hair Shanks, which resulted in Kid losing an arm. So that makes 2 one-armed red hair characters in the series.
Wait, him challenging Shanks was why he lost an arm? Wait, I thought Kid lost an arm from Kaido. Yeah, he lost his arm from a battle with the Red Hair Pirates. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, I really wanted to like Kid. I wanted to like him so much. He had such a cool design. He has a really cool power. And then after what he did, after Wano, I was like, dude, Kid's so awesome. They're gonna have like a little race. And he immediately just beelines into Shanks and just L moment. He just loses. It frustrated me so much. I'm like, you are the dumbest human being in the world. You already lost an arm. Why the fuck did you think you were gonna do better this time?
Series facing off again. Trafalgar Law, a fellow supernova and chief rival of Luffy and Kid, is the sole survivor of an island in North Blue called Fleavins. Now, Fleavins was known as the White City due to its industry of mining ember lead. However, what no one told these people was that exposure to this substance had horrible consequences. The terrible ember lead disease plagued the people of Fleavins, and the world government murdered everyone who lived there as a way to prevent the spread of the disease.
Jesus, what a horrible I mean, I know I say everyone in One Piece has a horrible backstory, but this is just insane. Law is such a cool, I don't know how Law is not like incredibly depressed all the time. I'm surprised he still has motivation to get out of bed in the morning.
And what makes it even more tragic is that the disease wasn't even contagious. Law only survived by hiding within a pile of dead bodies that was being carted out of the city. Now, after his escape from Fleavins, Law joined the Don Quixote Pirates. Surprisingly,
where things got much better and Law was never sad again, and that's nope.
Wasn't the only kid hanging around Doflamingo though. He befriended 2 other crew members close to his age, Baby 5 and Buffalo. Now, we don't know much about Buffalo's past, but Baby 5 had her own sad backstory. She was abandoned by her mother, who saw her as useless. It's probable that she's called Baby 5 because she was literally her mother's 5th baby. Her mom didn't even care enough to give her an actual real name. That
sucks.
And so to this day, she's obsessed with serving others and clings to anyone who shows her the smallest bit of affection and kindness.
Dude, she's got like this insane attachment anxiety to literally anyone that talks to her. That's so sad.
It's played off as a joke, but it's an actual really unsettling and heartbreaking thing when you really think about it.
Yeah, it's horrible.
Law had one person in his life that he was much closer to than the other kids in his age. He befriended Doflamingo's brother Rocinante, or Corazon, who was
nothing bad happened there.
Plotting against his brother's rise to power. Knowing that Law's ember lead disease could be cured by a devil fruit called the Ope Ope no Mi, Doflamingo made plans to steal the fruit. However, Doflamingo secretly wanted Law to eat the fruit so that he could use its immortality surgery power to grant Doflamingo eternal life. And so Corazon made a plan to steal the fruit for Law first, and then succeeded with that, but at the cost of his own life. Law narrowly avoided being recaptured by the Doflamingo pirates and eventually met Beppo, Shachi, and Penguin, starting the
Corazon deserved better.
Eventually taking down Doflamingo. Cavendish, the captain of—
Yeah, the Don Quixote family, like Doflamingo's actual family is full of mostly nice people. Like the dad was a mostly nice person as far as slave owners goes. The brother, great guy, seemed like really nice. And then Doflamingo is actual Antichrist.
Of the beautiful pirates was an up-and-coming superstar in the pirate world. However, after the Worst Generation made their debut, so Luffy, Law, Kid, and Co. stole the spotlight, causing Cavendish to hold a really bad grudge. Funny then that he did end up in Luffy's Grand Fleet. Cavendish is also possessed by a demon or curse called Hakuba that takes over his body whenever he falls asleep. Still,
Yeah, they just pulled this out of nowhere. He's like, oh, he's possessed by an incredibly powerful demon that takes control of him. I'm like, wait, hold on, what? Possessed by a demon? So, huh? What?
No explanation at all on how he ended up with this affliction, but we can guess that it has something to do with his cursed sword Durandai. And Bartolomeo was another Colosseum contender who, unlike Cavendish, wants nothing more than be working under
Dude, he's a
Luffy.
fanboy.
Ever since
He's
he saw
literally just a
Luffy's failed
fanboy.
execution in Loketown at the hands of Buggy, Bartolomeo has been the #1 Straw Hat superfan. As head of the Bardo Club, he's collected every single bounty poster and followed every piece
He's like the most normal dream stan.
of the news throughout Luffy's journey, forming an entire pirate crew out of Luffy Straw Hat fans. He just competed in the Colosseum in order to win the Flame fruit back for Luffy and ended up meeting his idol in the process.
He's
Moving
just
on to
like
someone
me.
completely different.
He loves
Law,
Luffy.
the head of the Rosy Life Riders. He was born into terrible circumstances. Namely, his face looked exactly like the Marine's terrible Sanji drawing on his wanted poster. Being mistaken for Sanji led to Duval living a life on the run and constantly wearing a helmet to hide his true identity. Thankfully, Sanji kicked his
get a
face
haircut,
into a
mate.
new handsome shape, causing him to turn his life around.
See, one of the few times that physical trauma can actually improve your life. It's like one of those situations where you hear about someone like falling down and like hitting their head a certain way and they wake up and they actually have much more mental clarity.
Completely forgot that that entire thing happened. Jewelry Bonnie is another one of the supernova who, according to this childhood drawing, has always had a very healthy appetite. Bonnie
Okay. She's just eating food.
is also the princess of
That's she's just eating something. I love that. That's like when you're in school and you have the English class and they say the curtains were red. However, the carpet was blue. What did the author mean by this? The curtains being red symbolizes the anger and frustration held in their hearts. The curtain, of course, symbolizing the eyes, the frustrated, angry eyes. But the carpet is lower down, deep within their soul. It is the inner sadness that they represent.
the Sorbet Kingdom, since she is Kuma's daughter. And there is clearly a lot more coming from
she's
her
cute.
as well. Ace and Sabo, Luffy's adoptive brothers, both grew up in the Goa Kingdom, but under very different circumstances. Ace was born as the son of pirate King Goldie Roger, but to protect Ace, Garp raised him as his own grandson and hid his true parentage. Sabo, however, was the son of a noble who longed for freedom outside of the niceties of upper-class life. And just one thing in Sabo's life was even worse to deal with than the unbearable customs of nobility. His adopted brother Stelly, who would eventually become the ruler of the Goa Kingdom and who has one of the most punchable faces in all of
How is this guy king? How has no one done a revolution on him? It would be so easy. You just go in and slap him up a little bit, you boom, you're king. It would be the easiest revolution of all time.
Ace and Sabo, along with their younger brother Luffy, adventured in the jungles of their home island and dreamed of setting sail as pirates together. But everything changed when a celestial dragon was scheduled to visit the kingdom. You see, the Goa Kingdom, as many places in One Piece, is home to an enormous class divide. The poor people of this society were forced to live in a massive junkyard known as the Great Terminal and lived off the scraps of the nobles. And so in order to avoid the celestial dragon
I love how the One Piece world reflects real world politics very well. Like the class divide in this island is about as real as the class divide in real life in most modern countries.
these impoverished people, the nobles conspired to burn the Great Terminal and all of the people in it to the ground. Sabo actually escaped Goa and set sail with the goal of becoming a pirate, but his makeshift vessel was shot down by the Celestial Dragon
Celestial Dragon's like the nice version of current billionaires.
arriving, and he was mortally wounded. Thankfully, Monkey D. Dragon and his revolutionaries happened to find the unconscious Sabo. Not
He just finds him in the leg. He's like, look at this fucking kid I found. He just has him in one
knowing
hand.
that Sabo was the brother
like,
of
oh,
his
now I can be a
biological
dad.
son Luffy, Dragon raised him, and Sabo eventually became the second in command of the Revolutionary Army. Ace, on the other hand, grew
Wait, wouldn't Sabo tell him about Luffy? Like, surely if Dragon is willing to raise Sabo, then Sabo would be like, oh yeah, I have a friend, he's called Luffy. Does Dragon know that his son is called Luffy? Who named Luffy? Was that Garp?
up to become a
Oh, he has amnesia. Oh, that's sad.
famous pirate in his own right, becoming Whitebeard's 4th Division commander. In fact, Whitebeard believed that Ace would become the king of the pirates one day. Unfortunately, after Blackbeard killed one of the fellow division commanders in order to steal the Darkness Fruit, Ace set off in pursuit, which would eventually result in his defeat and capture. Roronoa Zoro, the swordsman of the Straw Hat crew, grew up in Shimotsuke village and is descended from the samurai that fled Wano country after Orochi's takeover. As a kid, he trained trained hard to overtake his rival Kuina at swordsmanship. However, after her death at a young age, he swore that he would achieve their dream of becoming the world's strongest swordsman. Sanji actually gets not one but two backstories for the price of one. Originally, as a prince of the Germa kingdom, he was the result of experimentation by his father, Windsmoke Judge. His siblings, who had been deprived of their emotions, tormented him mercilessly. Finally, after he was freed from the
This is just a cautionary tale on why eugenics actually quite a bad idea.
cruelty of the Windsmokes, he found himself in the East Blue. And while in the East Blue, he was working on a ship as a cook. He was endlessly teased for his dream of finding the All Blue, a sea that brought together fish from all parts of the world. A chef's dream.
The episode where they are stuck on the rock, where Sanji and the other guy is stuck on the rock and they only have so much food, is baked into my memory because I used to watch One Piece when I was about like 8, 9, 10 years old, and I didn't really get that far into it. I didn't really understand the series, but that was the one episode that I remember the most. I didn't know anything about Luffy. I knew that one episode where he was sitting there eating moldy bread, and he goes over to the other side, and he's like, "Give me your food, old man," and it's all jewelry, and it reveals that he gave the kid all the food. I was like, damn, that's crazy. Even when I was 10 years old, I still was like, oh my god, that blew my own mind.
The ship was then attacked by pirates.
Yeah, Zep hacked his own leg off and ate his leg so that he wouldn't die. I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. And that stuck with me. Even after I stopped watching One Piece after that until about like 2020, where I started getting back into the series again.
But when a terrible storm nearly drowned Sanji, the pirate captain Zeph saved him. Zeph saved Sanji because he'd overheard his dream and because he also believed in the All Blue. After the shipwreck, the pair were deserted on a small island. Zeph separated all the food they had into 2 portions and divided the island in half so that each of them could serve as a lookout in the opposite direction. Soon, Sanji's rations were completely depleted and he began to starve. When he noticed that Zeph's food bag was still nearly full, he attempted to steal the old man's food, only to realize that the bag was full of treasure, not food. Zeph had given Sanji all of the food and had only survived by eating his own leg.
Oh my god, that's so metal. I wonder if he chefed it up. Did he season it?
Finally, the two were rescued and they founded the Baratier, the floating restaurant. Nami and her sister Nojiko were both found as babies by a marine named Belmare. They grew up peacefully in their village, but everything changed when Arlong decided to make it the base of his operations. Arlong and his underlings Hachan, Chu, and Kurobi had left the Sun Pirates to form their own crew. Arlong believed in fishermen supremacy over humans and built Arlong Park as his own twisted parallel to Sabaody Park, a place where he and his fellow fishermen were never allowed to enter as children. Arlong made the citizens of Kokoyashi village pay for their lives. However, Belmare could only afford to pay for Nami's and Nojiko's lives, and the two children saw Arlong shoot their adoptive mother to death in front of them. Seeing Nami's gift for navigation and map making, Arlong held her village for ransom.
Isn't Arlong still alive somewhere? Like Luffy just beats him up and he's just like, all right, I'll just not be Arlong Park anymore. I'll just go somewhere else. Dude, these people need to be fucking killed. Do we not do the Caesar thing? All right, I'm doing the Caesar thing now. Caesar deserves the most horrific, terrifying death of all time. Caesar is one of the most disgusting people I've ever seen in my life. I hate it. I hate that he just like gets to hang around the crew and they like make jokes with him, even though it's mostly at his expense and they mostly use him for his powers. But he just like gets to he deserves to die. Caesar deserves to die in the most horrible, horrific, terrible way. He experiments on kids, creates mass destruction, death devices, gas. They banned using gas after World War I because it was so horrific and horrible. Everyone came together and was like, yeah, let's not use gas anymore. That's like really bad. We shouldn't do that. And then Caesar's just out here making terrifying genocide gas and experimenting on kids. And it was just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna let Caesar chill out. He deserves to die. He deserves to die in the most horrible way.
Saying that he would release the people there if she worked for him and bought the village back for 100 million berries. Unfortunately, he had no intention of ever keeping his end of the bargain. Usopp from Syrup Village is the son of Yasopp, one of Shanks' crew members. When he was young, his mother died of an illness. Usopp would make a habit.
To end off on the Nami thing before we get into Usopp, I think that the Arlong Park thing is the second best scene in One Piece. After the I Want to Live, Nami saying help me, oh my god, tearjerker.
of lying to the villagers, warning that pirates were coming, mainly in the hope that one day his father truly would return. With his gift for storytelling, he befriended Kaya, a wealthy girl in the village. One day, he dreamed of becoming a brave warrior of the sea like his father, and once he joined Luffy, he finally had the chance to make his dream reality. Now, we already learned a bunch of—
I'm so sad. His dad is still part of the Red Hair Pirates, so they're gonna meet up one day. It's crazy. Usopp's gonna be so mad at his dad, and he better watch out because Usopp has like 8,000 men at his disposal, so.
Luffy's backstory when we discussed Ace and Sabo, but let's talk about how Luffy got his devil fruit and his dream of becoming a great pirate. We met Luffy as a young boy in Fuchsia Village. He loved hanging out at the local bar with his hero, a pirate called Red Hair Shanks. He always begged Shanks to let him join his crew, but he was never allowed since he was just a little kid. One day, Luffy took a bite of a small devil fruit called the Gobu Gomu no Mi that Shanks had stolen from a government ship, and doing so apparently at least gave him rubber powers. Later, when a mountain bandit threatened Luffy's life, Shanks got serious. He even sacrificed his own arm to save Luffy from a Sea King.
Which, you know, he actually didn't have to do, but it was just the point in the story where they didn't think that Shanks was a goat that could defeat Sea Kings. Now he could just look at the Sea King funny and it would immediately have a heart attack and die.
So once again,
I'm gonna be honest, Shanks is probably one of my favorite characters. He's really cool.
Voyaged away, but gave Luffy his straw hat, asking him to return it to him one day once he had become a great pirate. This hat has become Luffy's treasure. So many of the traits that Shanks embodied are qualities that Luffy takes on in the main story. On the other hand, Chopper, the youngest Straw Hat, is a blue-nosed reindeer who gained human intelligence. Because of that, the other reindeer thought of him as a freak. Meanwhile,
he bet his arm for the next generation. Yeah, I mean, that's what they say afterwards. You can create reasons why something happened after you've made it, even if it doesn't make 100% sense. Like saying, oh yeah, I bet my arm on the next generation. Like, all right, Shanks, you could have just saved him and you'd still have an arm. Like, it seems like losing an arm wasn't really that helpful to you. I know it's a metaphorical thing you're trying to put out there, but like, it's kind of weird that you just let him eat your arm.
Humans of Drum Kingdom mostly saw him as a monster. However, Chopper was then treated with kindness by Dr. Hirolok, a quack doctor from the islands. In the coming years, Chopper studied medicine under Hirolok, developing the goal of one day curing every disease in the world. However, things turned for the worse in Drum Island when Walpole took power finally. He monopolized Drum Kingdom's medical expertise by taking the 20 best doctors for himself and banishing or executing the rest. At this time,
He banished or executed the rest? Yeah, oh, I fucking hate Walpole! Oh, he deserves to die in the worst way.
Was facing a terminal disease. Chopper tried to cure him using a poisonous mushroom that he mistakenly thought was a medicine. However, to not have Chopper feel responsible for his death, he took his own life by drinking one of his failed concoctions after giving a speech to Walpole and his men. Chopper, meanwhile, continued his studies under Dr. Kureha until the day that he finally met the Straw Hat Pirates. The reason why a reindeer like Chopper was able to gain human-like intelligence was because he ate the human devil fruit. In fact, many of the characters that we've explained so far have devil fruit abilities as well. And since you actually watched a whole video about it—
oh, it's gonna transition into you should watch the devil fruit video, which I actually watched the devil fruit video as well. If you haven't watched the devil fruit video, he explains all the devil fruits and it's a really, really good video. Like, Ohara is a fantastic channel for explaining One Piece stuff. I really like it, so you should go, and like the editing is absolutely amazing. It's really, really, really good. I hope the villains in One Piece will get their just desserts. We need to line them all up and shoot them. I don't care if Luffy says, no, we don't need to kill them. No, we need to line every villain up. Just line them up on the wall and shoot every single villain. Kill them all. Anyway, that's my theories for One Piece in the future. I think that it's a really good series and I can't wait to see more. If you want me to react to something, let me know in the Discord server. I'll see you guys later. Bye.